exciting part of buying a home here in Southwest Florida. The paperwork. Okay, just kidding. It's definitely not the most exciting part, and in fact is probably the least exciting part. You thought you were just buying a home or selling a home? Little did you know, no. You're signing up as a part-time professional form filler. West Florida, we've got multiple contract types. We've got FAR/BAR, we've got NABOR, we've got standard, we've got as is. So many. It can be confusing. It's important you don't forget what Warren Buffett says. It is impossible to unsign a contract, so be sure you do all your thinking before you begin. But seriously, when you're signing your contracts, I know it can seem like you're signing your life away, and we're not even talking about what you have to do if you're getting a mortgage. But back to the real estate contract. Why do we have all these different forms? Well, it's because the devil is in the details, and we want to make sure everyone is on the same page, literally. I know price is the one term that everyone cares about the most. It's like the Beyonce of real estate terms. But just like Beyonce wouldn't be Beyonce without Destiny's Child, there are some other superstar contract terms that deserve your attention. First up, EMD. What is this? This is your escrow money deposit. It is absolutely a negotiable term, and it is something that kicks it off. And it is an important factor when you're looking at the terms of the offer that you're either putting forth on a property that you want to buy, or when you're looking at an offer to review as a seller when you're selling your home. This is the money that goes to the escrow company to hold there that says that you're serious about moving forward with this contract, and that money does get applied towards your closing when you go to closing, but it also is held there in the event that somebody does not perform to the contract terms. Next, we're talking about closing date, because you have to have the end in mind. So the closing date, it's like the finale of the entire contract. This is where everything changes hands, all the papers are signed, and the keys get turned over. Definitely don't want any surprises here, especially if you find out that, oh, I was supposed to move out yesterday. The closing is the natural progression of the journey when we complete all of the terms that are outlined in the contract. We are a full service team that is here to help you along every step of the journey. Next up, contingencies. These are basically your outs in case things start to go sideways. It's like the escape hatch on a plane, or more like a parachute, I suppose. It's there in case you need it, but hopefully you never do. Financing, inspections, appraisals, these are all things that could go wrong, and these contingencies help give you a safety net. Let's talk about these contingencies for just another minute, because they do apply importantly whether you're the buyer or the seller. When you're the buyer, these contingencies, they are kind of built-in protection periods for you. So they do have impact. So for example, if you are on an as-is contract and you go to an inspection and there are items that are significant or that give you concern or that just give you a bad feeling, then you have the opportunity to cancel your contract. Again, contract type dependent on what options you've got, and you want to make sure you're working with a team who has a lot of experience in assisting with this. If you are a cash buyer, listen, you can still put an appraisal contingency on that. If you have any concerns over the value of the home, want to make sure that you are paying an appropriate market value amount, yeah, that is an option for you. So if you're writing offers, make sure you're talking to your agents or your team about that. When you're on the seller side, you want those contingencies to be cleared as soon as possible, because with every contingency that gets cleared, your contract with every contingency that clears, it is a stronger and stronger contract, getting you one step closer to closing. So contingencies are a very important part. And again, it is important for both sides for different reasons. And if you have questions on these contingencies and what are available for you when you're ready, whether you're a seller, whether you're a buyer, let's have a discussion about that. Speaking of inspections, that's the next big one. You might love the look of that new pool. Does it hold its water? Or was it just topped off before the inspection? Inspections allow you to dive under the surface, no pun intended, and make sure your dream home doesn't come with any surprises. We could do a whole video on inspections, and in fact, we have before. Maybe it was too deep. Oh, the puns are coming out today. There are two primary areas that get identified on an inspection. You've got defective items and cosmetic items. Different companies can call them different things. And sometimes on the inspection, they'll even include routine maintenance items. These inspection reports are about 30 or 40 pages at a minimum before they even get to the meat of the inspection. Some contracts in Southwest Florida specify exactly what needs to be repaired, and some don't. You want to make sure sure you're working with a team that is very familiar with all the different contract type and the differences between them and what the requirements are. Working with a full-time, full-service team who do a lot of transactions ensures they will be able to help you navigate, figure out which of those contracts is the right one for you in your situation. We were working with a seller one time and received a standard contract. Again, there's a lot of details that go into this. If you have specific questions that you would like to talk about, definitely reach out and I'm happy to schedule time and talk about these with you. But just a quick little story. The water heater came up as an item. I think that the inspector marked it as defective because it was old and at the end of what this inspector deemed the end of its life. However, the water heater was working. It was in working condition. It was heating up water. And the agent on the other side was trying to insist that the seller replace the water heater because we were on a standard contract and it was identified as defective in the report. However, when you really dig in, our response to the agent was we're working within the confines of the contract, and the water heater at the time of the inspection was in working condition. So in fact, the seller was not obligated in this case to repair or replace that water heater because it was working. And sometimes buyers will ask questions and they'll be frustrated about this and they'll say, you know, I don't understand. It says it's at the end of the life, but it is working. So let me ask you, if you have something that is working in your home, it's in working condition, do you replace it or do you wait until it actually fizzles out and completely dies before you replace it? I know there are probably some cases, but most people, what they tend to say is, if it ain't broke, I don't fix it until I have to. Next part to consider in these contracts is inclusions and exclusions. So it is really important to be very clear and identify things that are included, things that aren't. For example, wait a minute, I wasn't gonna leave that TV. If you're not gonna leave the TV, then it is critical if you're a seller that you've got it on an exclusion list. And all of these things, inclusions and exclusions, anything outside of the norm should absolutely be written into the contract. This part of the contract is merely making sure that everyone in the party is very clear what's staying, what's going, what's gonna be on that moving truck come closing day. Pro tip, always double check this list before you fall in love with that seller's garden gnomes. But in all seriousness, the listings you should always clarify, your agent should be clarifying with you, is this home furnished, unfurnished, turnkey, what's the difference of that? And there should be lists that go along and clearly document what's staying and what's going. Unfurnished is just like it sounds, unfurnished. Furnished property is one that is typically including the furniture. So the couches, the chairs, the beds, the kitchen table and chairs, the stools, things like that. Anything that's attached to the wall. So yes, that means your TV mounts. Doesn't necessarily mean the TV. That is one that has to be clarified. It means draperies, they're hanging from the wall and they're attached, it's included. And then we've got turnkey. There's often a lot of questions about turnkey. So a turnkey property is one where you literally can come in with your clothes on your back and your toothbrush, and you can start living, you can start renting. So it includes your dishes, your silverware, small electronics, hair dryers, sheets, all of that type of thing, basically everything except for personal items. Again, it is common to have some exclusions on in these types of scenarios. So it is very important, if I haven't hit the point enough, to make sure that everyone is reviewing and signing off on the exclusion list. And if there's any questions, asking them up front at the time of signing the contract so that there are no surprises come closing. Yes, the contracts and the forms can feel very overwhelming, but they are there for everyone's protection. Think of it like this. You're just one signature away from that Florida sunshine if you're buying, or not if you're selling. And that's what we're all after, right? So let's get you signing. Just kidding. We're gonna take it one step at a time, and I promise I'll bring the E-Pin. If you have questions about our contract types here in Southwest Florida, or if you have any questions about moving to Southwest Florida or anywhere else in the country, please reach out. You can always contact us directly at 239-776-6872. Shoot us an email at info@gillettegroup.com. With Relocation Guide, we'd be happy to share our relocation guide with you with all types of great information about moving to Southwest Florida. You can also find us on social media. If you have any questions, put them in the boxes below, because we want to know, how can we help you live joy in Southwest Florida?